As you're trolling around the databases, surfing the web, and browsing books, you need to start asking yourself if the sources you're finding are good. You need to ask yourself a variety of questions about the resources you're finding in order to decide whether to use them for your project or not. The question you may be asking at this point is, why do I need to judge the source if it has what I need? The simple answer is that you need to make sure the author is trustworthy. Is the information you are receiving valid information? With the advent of the World Wide Web, everyone can be an author, and many people take advantage of that. Do you know somebody with a blog or a Facebook account? The web has opened up the world of information sharing in so many ways. Though once more exclusively part of an academic world, the internet has become the printing press for the average person. Similarly, you can no longer assume that because a book was printed, it was also edited and reviewed by somebody with authority. Every day, people are publishing books through vanity presses that are not reviewed by anyone except the author. Rather than a publisher paying the author for the privilege of printing their work, some authors are now paying the publisher to print work that would not otherwise be accepted by a mainstream publishing company. So how can you tell? You should be checking 6 things to determine if the resource will be valuable to your research. You want to look at usefulness, accuracy, authority, timeliness, objectivity, and presentation of the information. The very first thing you judge when you locate a source is if it's going to be helpful to you. You do this pretty fast as you skim through and make split-second decisions about whether to read further. As you're reading, you should also be asking yourself how exactly this information will support your thesis. Except at the very beginning of the research process, if it's merely basic background information, it may not be particularly valuable as a source. Make sure you check to see if there's enough information, if there's sufficient data or evidence to back up what the author is saying. Check to make sure the information is detailed. Does the information address your thesis? And does it answer any of your research questions? If it doesn't help your research, it isn't a viable source. Make sure it somehow supports your thesis or argument, or perhaps it refutes your thesis and you will change your thesis as you dig deeper and learn more. Either way, a source about cancer is unlikely to be helpful for a project about the American Revolution. Next, we're going to look at accuracy. And accuracy means, is the information correct? Accuracy is a big factor that students often have a hard time distinguishing, but it's one of the easiest to judge. The main question you should ask yourself here is whether you've seen this information somewhere else. Does another source you've looked at back up what you're reading now, or does another source refute what you're reading? If you find disagreeing sources, you'll need to figure out which ones have valid information. Here's a quick tip. Try a search of some of the facts you find to see if you can find the information somewhere else, even if you don't use the other site as a source. Authority is what gives someone the right to do something. When looking to establish a work's authority, you consider who wrote the information. Does the person have a degree? Do they have prior experience writing about this topic? Do they have first-hand experiences with the topic? If the author is not an expert in the field, do they reference the works of authors who are knowledgeable? Do they list their sources of information, or do they hope you will blindly trust them? Who else is affiliated with the author or the information source? Was it published by a university press or a vanity publisher? What organizations are associated with the author? Is it a source about Martin Luther King Jr. published by a white supremacy group? The easiest way to attempt to establish authority when the author's credentials are not listed with the article is to do a quick internet search of their name and see what pops up. You may even want to add some keywords that relate to your topic in the search. This will allow you to see how extensive their writing is in a particular field. Be sure to check if someone or some company or organization is affiliated with this person who gives them credibility. Be sure to check that the domain of a site is credible. Another thing you need to evaluate when looking at a source is timeliness. Was it written or at least updated recently? Sometimes being recently written doesn't matter, but the date of publication still does. For instance, if you're looking for primary sources written at the time of the American Civil War, you want dates that coincide with the war rather than recent dates. If you're looking for information on something recent, such as the war on terrorism, then a more recent publication date could greatly impact the accuracy of the information being presented. You may also wish to look at how your topic has changed over a period of time. so you'll need to look for particular dates for that information, rather than focusing on how current an article is. Make sure you check things like how recent the facts and figures are. Does the site tell you how old the information is? Are the links current or are they broken? And consider whether you're doing current or historical research. Next, we're going to look at objectivity. Objectivity means being fair. Does the site provide a balanced view or is it slanted to one side? Have the authors provided facts from both sides of the argument? Did they present only the positive or only the negative? Was some information left out? Are there opinions expressed or only facts? And who else links to the site? Objectivity is also known as bias, something that you've also been exploring in English. A quick tip: if the source does not present both sides, you have to wonder what they're hiding. Finally, we're going to look at presentation. How exactly does the resource look? Is it visually appealing? Does it contain a balance of pictures and text? Is the information easy to find? And is it laid out in a logical fashion? This may seem silly, but if the page is hard to navigate, just how useful can it be to you in your research?